Globalization. Introduction. Globalization is a major change that occurred across the globe in the late 20th century. This has political, cultural, as well as economic dimensions. We identify three types of movement within international economic changes. The first is the flow of trade in goods as well as services. The second is the flow of labor, the migration of people in search of employment. The third is the movement of capital for short-term or long-term investments over long distances. Besides, there are political and cultural dimensions of globalization. For instance, last year, several nations in Western Asia and Northern Africa, like Tanzania, Egypt, were influenced by each other's revolution and uprooting of dictators. This was called Arab Spring in the media. While events like civil war or natural disasters like tsunami are discussed within the national boundaries, they also receive support and sympathy from around the world. Globalization is not merely about the market, ideas are also being shared and expanded. Production across countries. Until the middle of 20th century, production was largely organized within countries. Raw materials, food grains, and finished products only crossed the boundaries of these countries. Colonies such as India exported raw materials and food grains and imported finished goods. This was before the large multinational companies, MNCs, emerged on the scene. An MNC is a company that owns or controls production in more than one nation. MNCs set up offices and factories for production in regions where they can get cheap labor and other resources. This is done so that the cost of production is low and the MNCs can earn great profiles. As a result, production is organized in increasingly complex ways. The production process is divided into small parts and spread out across the globe. The advantage of spreading out production across borders to see the multinationals can be truly immense. Interlinking production across countries. In general, the criteria for selecting a site for operations of MNCs are proximity to the markets, availability of skilled and unskilled labor at low costs, assured availability of other factors of production, government policies that protect their interest, the money that MNCs spend to buy assets such as land, building, machines, and other equipment is called foreign investment. At times, MNCs set up production jointly the local companies of these countries, but the most common route for MNC investment is to buy up local companies and then to expand production. MNCs with huge wealth can quite easily do so. In fact, many of the top MNCs have wealth exceeding the entire budgets of the developing country governments. With such enormous wealth, imagine the power and influence of these MNCs. There is another way in which MNCs control production. Large MNCs in developed countries place orders for production with small producers. Garments, footwear, sports, items are examples of industries where production is carried out by large number of small producers around the world. The products are supplied to the MNCs, which then sell these under their own brand names to the customers. As a result of the MNCs, production is widely dispersed locations is getting interlinked. Foreign trade and integration of market. For a long time, trade has been main channel of connecting countries. To put it simply, foreign trade creates an opportunity for the producers to reach beyond the domestic markets. Similarly, for the buyers, trade expands the choice of goods beyond what is domestically produced. Foreign trade thus results in connecting the markets or integration of markets in different countries. MNCs and globalization. In past 3 or 4 decades, more and more MNCs have been looking for locations around the world which would be cheap for their production. Foreign investments by MNCs in these countries has been rising. At the same time, foreign trade between the countries has been rising rapidly. A large part of the foreign trade is also controlled by MNCs. The result of the greater foreign investment and greater foreign trade has been greater integration of production and markets across the countries. Globalization is the process of rapid integration or interconnection between countries. MNCs are playing a major role in the globalization process. The flow of capital, people, technology is supposed to have created a borderless world. As a result, states lose power to determine many aspects of life even within their borders. Factors that have enabled globalization technology. Rapid improvement in technology has been one major factor that has stimulated the globalization process. For instance, the past 50 years have seen several improvements in transportation technology. As a result, goods are delivered faster across long distance at lower costs. The development in information and communication technology have been even more remarkable and rapid. Telecommunications facilities are used to contact with another around the world, to access information instantly and to communicate. For remote areas, computers have now entered almost every field of activity. Internet allows us to send email and talk across the world at negligible cost. Liberalization of foreign trade and foreign investment policy. Tax on imports is an example of trade barrier. It is called a barrier because some restrictions has been set up. Governments can use trade barriers to increase or decrease foreign trade, to decide what kind of goods and how much of each should come into the country. In Indian government after independence had put barriers to foreign trade and foreign investments. This was considered necessary to protect the procedures with the country from foreign competition. Industries were just coming up in the 1950s and 1960s. Thus, India allowed imports of only essential items such as machinery, fertilizers, petroleum, etc. However, starting around 1991, some far-reaching changes in policy were made in India. The government decided that the time had come for Indian producers to compete with producers around the globe. It felt that competition would improve the performance of producers within the country since they would have to improve the quality. This decision was supported by powerful international organizations. Thus, barriers on foreign trade and foreign investment were removed to a large extent. This meant that goods could be imported and exported easily, and also foreign companies could set up factories and offices here. Removing barriers or restrictions set up by the government is known as liberalization. With the liberalization of trade, businesses are allowed to make decisions freely about what they wish to import or export. The government imposes much less restrictions than before and is therefore said to be more liberal. Institutions of global governance. Today, many decisions on key issues that affect large parts of the world are taken by institutions of global governance. A good example is the issue of climate change. Initially, the issue of reducing carbon emissions were left to individual countries. However, it was soon found that if one country were to attempt to reduce carbon emissions, industry could just shift it another location where there are lower regulations. Consequently, the issue of emissions and climate change have to be tackled by countries coming together. World Trade Organization (WTO). World Trade Organization is one such organization whose aim is to liberalize international trade, started at the initiative of the developed countries. WTO establishes rules regarding international trade and see that these rules are obeyed. Nearly 150 countries of the world are currently the members of the WTO. Impact of globalization in India. Firstly, MNCs have increased their investments in India. MNCs have been interested in industries such as cell phones, automobiles, electronics, soft drinks, fast foods, or services such as banking in urban areas. These products have a large number of well-off buyers. In these industries and services, new jobs have been created. Also, local companies supplying raw materials, etc., to these industries have prospered. Moreover, globalization has enabled some large Indian companies to emerge as multinationals themselves. Globalization has also created new opportunities for companies providing services, particularly those involving IT, beside a host of services such as data entry, accounting, administrative tasks, engineering are now being done cheaply in countries such as India and other exported to the developed countries. Small producers compete or perish. Recent studies point out that small producers in India need three things to compete better in the market: a better roads, better power, water, raw materials, marketing and information network, improvements and modernization of technology, and timely availability of credit at reasonable interest rates. the government has a role in marketing these facilities available. The struggle for a fair globalization. The above evidence indicates that not everyone has benefited from globalization. People with educational skills and wealth have made the best use of new opportunities. On the other hand, there are many people who have not shared the benefits. Since globalization is now a reality, the question is how to make globalization more fair. The government can play a majority role in making this possible. Its policies must protect the interest not only the rich and the powerful but all the people in the country. For instance, the government can ensure that labor laws are properly implemented and the workers get their rights, can support small producers to improve their performances till the time they become strong enough to compete. In the past few years, massive campaigns or representations by people's organizations have influenced important decisions relating to trade and investments at the WTO. This has demonstrated that people also can play an important role in the struggle for a fair globalization. Other issues. For most part of the time, the nation started with people organized on territorial grounds was the main form of political organization when it came to demarched countries. These territorial divisions created divisions of us and them, of outside and inside, and laid the physiological foundations for creating a feeling for one's own country. The feeling of nationalism, the most important impact of globalization, is gradually dilution of this feeling. Some argue that the impact of modern communication and technology has led to the spread of certain cultures and ideas which have marginalized local and small cultures. It has been pointed out that while some languages have become widely used and are languages of international communication, others have been neglected and some are on the verge of extinction.
మా వీడియో గనుక మీకు నచ్చినట్లయితే లైక్ చేయండి, షేర్ చేయండి. ఇలాంటి మరిన్ని వీడియోస్ కోసం మా ఛానల్ని సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోవడం మాత్రం మర్చిపోకండి. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఫర్ వాచింగ్.